Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. Ja Morant made his season debut and returned a conquering hero. Hit the game winner at the buzzer as the Grizzlies snap their 5-game losing streak. An incredible debut game for Ja Morant. And suddenly it's as if a great weight was lifted. Ja Morant brought the Grizzlies all the way back from 24 points down. They endured a 23-0 run in the second quarter. It didn't matter. They kept chipping away, and the Grizzlies get the victory. They are now 1-0 with Ja Morant. In this episode, I'm mainly going to revel in how much fun that basketball game was. Before we get there, just a word from Underdog Fantasy. If you want to play daily fantasy sports for cash, if you want to do season-long best ball, if you want to play higher or lowers with your favorite players and their stats, you can do all that at Underdog Fantasy. If you sign up using promo code FBBF, Underdog will match your opening deposit up to $100. If you happen to live in Tennessee or Alabama or Mississippi, Underdog Fantasy will match your opening deposit up to $500 if you use that promo code FBBF, or you can sign up using the link in this episode's description. All right, the story of this game, I mean, it's all Ja Morant. Everything about this Grizzlies team looks better with Ja Morant. The game before against the Thunder, where they had a season high 22 turnovers and they might have quit in the third quarter, and they basically had no dribblers outside of Jacob Gilyard. Well, guess what? You throw in one all-star point guard, all of a sudden it all makes sense. And man, even when the team was losing, I promise you this, even when the team was losing in the second quarter, I was just having a good time being like, you know what? It's going to be fine. This team right here is going to be fine. The starting lineup made a ton of sense together. I mean, obviously, you got Ja, you got Desmond, you got Jaren. That's a great start. Vince Williams Jr. is a perfect complementary piece to those guys. I mean, whoever you play at the 5, if it's Bismack or Xavier, whatever, you got Ja, Dez, and Jaren. It all makes sense. And then you can stagger Ja and Dez. They did that. There was never a minute where Ja and Desmond were both off the court. That sounds like remedial and simple and like, well, of course you'll stagger Ja and Dez so you'll have a ball handler on the court at all times. I don't know. I didn't take it for granted. I was excited they did that. And now, like, there's so many cool things that come out of this. I mean, of course, just a buzzer beater. A storybook. It's a better storybook ending than the Dylan Brooks dagger game, I think. I mean, Ja Morant, he finished with 34 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds. He had 27 points in just the second half. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for Ja in the second half alone. The only players in the NBA this season to have a half with 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, Luka Doncic and Ja Morant. This is just the second time in Grizzlies franchise history a player has had at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists and a half. The other one was also Ja Morant in February against the Lakers. They kept chipping away. That's what makes it fun too. It was a team effort. Of course, Ja lifts everyone on the team, but like when they were down 24, you had Desmond Bane hit a driving layup with about 30 seconds left in the half. Then the Pelicans have the ball. Vince Williams Jr. draws an offensive foul, then hits a buzzer beater to cut it to 19. And then in the third quarter, fourth quarter, you saw, Josh shaking the rust off. He hadn't played a basketball game in 8 months. He's getting towards the bucket. He's feeding everybody. All of a sudden, Bismack Biyombo's finishing in the paint. Xavier Tillman, resurrected from the dead. He's making strong contributions. You have just this scoring. This team that was last in the NBA in offensive rating kept scoring. They scored 74 points in the second half. That's their highest scoring half of the season. In the fourth quarter, they scored 38 points. That's tied for their highest scoring quarter of the season. You go on the road to a good defensive team and you post a 120 offensive rating. Suddenly, you got Ja Morant. Everything's working. Like, Ja Morant's jumpers weren't going in. He missed all his three-pointers. I think everyone was short. Understandable. Didn't matter. He got in the paint. He kept scoring. This Grizzlies team, which posted a humiliatingly low 22 points in the paint against the Thunder on Monday, had 62 points in the paint. I mean, some of it you can also blame the Pelicans. Like, Ja scored in the paint over and over. His game-winning shot, why are the Pelicans letting us just run 5 out? Why are the Pelicans just playing man-to-man? Why aren't they sending a double team? I don't know. Thank you for not. Ja Morant gets Herb Jones one-on-one, is able to beat him for the game-winning basket. By the way, the game-winning play, it was set up off of a timeout. I thought all this was pretty interesting. So the final couple minutes, but they're trading buckets. I mean, Ja Morant basically, he'll score, or Jaren will make a free throw, but then the Pelicans came down and they would drive to the basket. They would score. Jonas got a putback to tie the game. But then when CJ McCollum misses this shot going down the stretch, the Grizzlies have the ball, and the Grizzlies call timeout. And it seemed like Ja Morant was frustrated that a timeout was called. At the watch party, we were all frustrated. I yelled no. I just wanted them to push in transition. So they come out and then they run the same play they said they wanted to do. And Ja, of course, hits the game winner. But this is funny. In the post game, apparently in this timeout, Ja Morant was like, hey, should we post up Jaren? And he says it to Desmond Bane. And so listen to Desmond Bane's version of events and then listen to Ja Morant's version of events. So first, here's Desmond Bane.
Ja came up to me and asked me, he was like, do you want to run a post up for Jaren? And I was like, no. Like, we about to get you the ball.
All right, and here's Ja Morant, what he said.
I told Dez, asking him, do we want to, get an easy bucket? Jaren pretty much, had a, smaller defender on him. Should we just, go in the post, with the time? He told me, no, you getting the ball.
So pretty hysterical. I mean, I know maybe I saw a post-game write-up that they were like, Taylor Jenkins drew up a great final play. It sounds like the players were like, no. It's time to call 12. Let Ja Morant do his thing. And Ja Morant did, in fact, do his thing. All right, and I don't know if you saw this stat, too. This was a good stat that somebody pulled. The most go-ahead baskets in the final 2 minutes of a game this season, number 1 is Steph Curry, who's played in 25 games. Tied for second, Ja Morant. He's tied with LeBron James. LeBron's played 25 games. Ja's played 1 game. There was also this stat, which I don't find it that interesting. This was posted several places. It was posted on the broadcast. Ja Morant's point total is the most by any player in NBA history for a player coming back from an absence of 25 games or more. I don't know how many players that has applied to in NBA history. Feels like a pretty small number of players that's ever applied to. That doesn't interest me. 34 points, 8 assists, 27 of them in the second half, and the game-winning shot, that interests me. This, by the way, was the 7th all-time matchup of Ja Morant and Zion Williamson. Zion won the first 4. Now Ja has won the last 3. Even if the Grizzlies did not win this game, I'd still be a pretty happy guy because, again, everything looked better. Like, Desmond Bane did not have his greatest game. He's coming off a game where he played 40 minutes. Second night of a back-to-back. Didn't seem that good. It didn't matter. He's able just to be carried by Ja Morant until he starts making some shots. He did keep his three-point streak going of games with at least 3 made three-pointers, now at a franchise record 10 straight games for Desmond Bane having 3 or more made threes. He had 4 assists, also had 4 turnovers. Jaren Jackson Jr. had kind of a quiet 24 points. He got to the free throw line a career high 15 times, made 11 of them. At one point, I think he was just 3 out of 7 at the line. The Grizzlies overall kind of struggled at the line for a while there, but eventually Jaren found his stroke. The Grizzlies made their final 8 free throws of the game to finish with some pretty good free throw numbers. Another fun thing about this Jaren Jackson Jr. game, he drew his first charge of his career. He had never drawn a charge before. He picks up an offensive foul by Zion Williamson. The Pelicans challenged it. I'll be honest with you. I think it was the wrong call. When I watched the replay on the challenge, thought it was the wrong call. Looks like Jaren is falling down before Zion makes impact. I feel like once you start falling down, you no longer have legal guarding position. This game featured 2 challenges where, in my humble opinion, I think they got the call wrong. I thought that was an incorrect call. They went back and watched it in slow-mo and said, yep, let's stick with our incorrect call. And then the foul on Bismack Biyombo, where they said he pushed Cody Zeller. He did not displace Cody Zeller one bit. He did not affect Cody Zeller's balance. That blew my mind that call wasn't overturned. So that's for me, that's 2 calls. The referees went to the monitor, reviewed it, and got it incorrect. I don't know how that happens. But whatever the call, it stood. Jaren Jackson Jr., reigning Defensive Player of the Year, picks up the first drawn charge of his entire career. Let's credit Marcus Smart. It's that Marcus Smart effect. It's what we were all talking about. Marcus Smart taught the team how to draw charges. Jaren finally gets one. Jaren also in this game, by scoring 24 points, passed Bryant Reeves in the all-time franchise scoring list. He moved into 10th place all-time with the 24 points he scored. If he gets one more block, he's going to. Once he gets one more block, Jaren will tie Stromile Swift for the 3rd most blocks in franchise history. A couple of notes about that second quarter that was hideously bad. The Grizzlies were outscored by 23 points on the heels of that 23-0 run. That's the second most points they've ever been outscored by in a second quarter. One thing that Ja did not fix, he fixed so much, basically everything, upon returning. Ja did not fix the team's three-point shooting. They were only 10 out of 31 on threes. Doesn't matter, though. If you're getting to the paint, you're getting to the line, who cares? Not a problem there. By the way, now for the season, this is just a reflection of what has happened. It's not necessarily predictive. The Grizzlies, though, they're 5-4 now when they take 34 or fewer three-pointers. They're 2-15 when they take 35 or more. So one of the things that Ja fixed that I was talking about is just like the rotation. It all makes sense now. Or it just looks a ton better. And you're still going to get Marcus Smart back. You're still going to get Luke Kennard back. But like this play of Ja, he just lifts everybody up. All of a sudden, Zaire Williams doesn't seem useless. I mean, Zaire did look like a baby deer learning to walk on a fast break, but like you saw Zaire finish an alley-oop for Ja Morant's first assist. Zaire has always been good at providing what I call vertical spacing. He's always been good on the baseline, being ready to catch an alley-oop from Ja. So I think Ja's going to make Zaire look better. Xavier Tillman, like I said, all of a sudden looks better. Ja found him with a great pass when he sealed Jose Alvarado. Tillman also still maybe had some goofy plays where he turned the basketball over unnecessarily, but Tillman also steps up with a huge fourth quarter 3. He had a massive wing three-pointer that he made. And for all of you who say Tillman should stop shooting, which again, I'm sympathetic. That's fine. But now on the season, Xavier Tillman has the same three-point percentage as Marcus Smart and David Roddy. I mean, that's kind of a trick stat. They're all at 29%. Xavier Tillman is 29% on about 2 attempts per game. Marcus Smart is 29% on 5.5 attempts per game. Roddy's 29% on 3.5 attempts per game. You want to do a bet which one of those 3 players finishes the year with the highest three-point percentage? I'm taking Tillman. I mean, Tillman's looks should be easier. He's going to only take them when he's wide open. But, yeah, give me Tillman. I don't know if it's even odds or what. But great job by Tillman, all of a sudden looking better. And, again, they closed with Tillman. That is super interesting to me. This is a guy who had been struggling for most of the year, had lost his starting spot to Bismack Biyombo. When he played, he'd been a mess recently. And all of a sudden, in a close game, they're choosing to go with Tillman. He did a good job, I think, bodying up with Jonas Valanciunas, even though Jonas had a big game. Did a good job bodying up with Zion Williamson. They trusted that defense, and he was a very good connective piece out there. And also just Ja made him look better. Ja made Bismack look better. I mean, Bismack was 4 out of 5 from the field. He's finishing in the paint. Overall, one of the interesting things now, I mean, like, not everything's fixed. This is a fun game. We're going to celebrate it. We're going to enjoy it. I'm going to rewatch it again later today. But, like, one of the cool things or interesting things now that's maybe up for debate is, like, what do you do when Marcus Smart comes back? I don't feel like he's coming back on Thursday against the Pacers. But, like, you assume this weekend Marcus Smart's going to come back. My thought right now is I would put Marcus Smart as sixth man. I would bring him off the bench. I'm not overly carried away about Vince Williams Jr., if that's what you're thinking. I don't think Vince Williams Jr. is better than Marcus Smart, at least not yet. I do think that Jaren and Ja and Desmond plus Vince is kind of almost as good as Jaren and Ja and Dez and Marcus. But I think Marcus on the bench or with second unit guys is way better than Vince Williams Jr. with second unit guys. I'd rather have Marcus Smart helping out a lineup that might have Santi Aldama or Zaire or Roddy in it as opposed to Vince Williams Jr. I think Vince Williams Jr. can be a connective piece, can really help out the other star players. I think Marcus Smart can uplift the lesser players. I don't think Vince can uplift the lesser players, if that makes sense to you. So I would think, and I don't know if it's going to fly, I don't know if they'll even do it, I would think once Marcus Smart comes back, let's leave him as sixth man. Let's have him help that out. You know, they help out that second unit. Also, you know, they'll probably still stagger Desmond and Ja, so maybe it doesn't matter that much. But you can close with Marcus Smart if he's your best option. That's totally fine. But I think for the time being, I would kind of leave Vince Williams Jr. as the starter. And, like, you know, I think because Marcus is coming back from injury, you have the freedom to be like, oh, we're gonna bring him along slowly. So maybe it works out where you're like, we're going to try this and no one gets their feelings hurt. We're not asking Marcus to come off the bench. We're just bringing him along slowly. So maybe you could try that. Like, I am so excited, though, about Vince. Like, Vince in this game, he had 3 made threes. He had 7 rebounds. We got 9.7 rebounds, a block, and 3 assists. I just think he's this perfect complimentary piece, and you might think I'm a weirdo for being so excited about Vince Williams Jr. and not being like just mainly excited about Ja Morant. Like, of course, I'm so excited Ja Morant is back and playing basketball, but I knew about Ja Morant. I've known he's good. Vince Williams Jr. I did not know about. I mean, I was aware of him, but I didn't know he would actually help out, and that is the piece, this like missing wing defender, maybe shooter that's been missing. And when we looked at this roster and we said, well, somebody's got to step up and replace Dylan Brooks, or we said, man, it's kind of bad that none of the young players that they hoped would step up and be this wing have come through. Well, guess what? One of them actually has come through, and it's Vince Williams Jr. And now it looks like even when Marcus Smart returns and maybe he takes over the starting spot, you have a wing guy you can depend on, who's a good defender, who's a great rebounder, who also knocks down threes. He's now shooting like 44% in his last 10 games. For the season, he's second on the team in three-point percentage at 39%. You know who's first? Jacob Gilyard. Jacob Gilyard and Vince Williams Jr. have the highest three-point percentages on the team. Gilyard's at 43%. But like, Vince keeps performing. He keeps guarding the other team's best players. He was switching back and forth between Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. I mean, CJ McCollum had a good game. Brandon Ingram had a huge game. I'm not saying Vince stopped him, but I think he harassed them. He made them work. I mean, Grizz killer CJ McCollum, who I'm sure you know, by now you can repeat it back that he has his highest career scoring average against the Grizzlies. He scores more per game against the Grizzlies than any other team. He was draining all his threes. He airballed that clutch one, though. Whoops. You saw Vince jawing at him, I'm sure, too, at the end of the first half. Like, Vince is guarding the other team's best players. He's also wrestling with Valanciunas in the post. Seems like he can guard anybody. And we know he's that rebounding piece. Just fits in. He's a pretty good passer. I love it. I'm so excited to have found Vince Williams Jr. to play alongside our guys. Also, as far as the rest of the rotation, I love that they went with John Conchar. I mean, look at the rebounding numbers. So Vince had 7 rebounds in 35 minutes. Conchar had 8 rebounds. 0 points, 8 rebounds. This goes to my, when I'm not sure what to do rotation-wise, my default, just play the guys who defend and rebound. And I think it was a benefit to the Grizzlies having Conchar out there just making hustle plays, just basically trying to get the rebound every time. I don't know if this stat is meaningful, but I looked it up just to see what the numbers said. This season, the Grizzlies, they're in about the 40th percentile for offensive rebounding and about the 40th percentile for defensive rebounding. So they're below average. It's not as bad as what I might have feared coming into the year with no Steven Adams. But if one of Vince Williams Jr. or John Conchar is on the court, if either one of those guys is on the court, they jump up to the 76th percentile in defensive rebounding and the 59th percentile in offensive rebounding. Now, I don't know if that's a thing. There's a lot of factors that go into those numbers, but it's just something I was looking up and was curious. And so right now it does say, hey, if just either one of those guys plays, your rebounding numbers are way better. As far as the rest of the roster, who haven't I mentioned? Oh, Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama scored 8 points in the first quarter, did not score for the rest of the game. Sort of lost his playing time to David Roddy, so Jaren was in foul trouble. When Jaren got in foul trouble at the end of the first half, they brought in Roddy, and then he picked up his 4th foul at the start of the third quarter. And then Roddy played, but he basically only filled in for the missing Jaren minutes. Like, he was not playing in like a second unit rotation, if that makes sense. Like, Roddy played in the third quarter when Jaren had his 4th foul, but once Jaren would have subbed out normally, Roddy subbed out and then didn't play again in the rest of the game. So I guess that was kind of interesting. I don't know. Like, once Kennard comes back and you got Smart and Kennard and Vince, I mean, I don't know who we're going with. Is Aldama at risk of getting some DMPs? I think he is, actually. They just maybe didn't think he could contain enough of like Zion or Brandon Ingram, and the offensive spark wasn't enough to justify his minutes. But it's now a good problem where you have several players, or soon you will have several players that you are comfortable with playing, as opposed to some other games where maybe you did not necessarily want to play certain players that many minutes. As far as the total stats for Tillman, he finished with 7 points, 6 boards, an assist, and a steal. Zaire had 4 points, missed all 3 of his 3-pointers. Roddy did not score, had 3 rebounds. The next game for the Grizzlies against the Pacers, of course, the home debut for Ja Morant. I feel like if Ja scores less than like 46, I'll be disappointed. It's because the Pacers are giving up historic numbers. The Pacers don't play any defense at all. They do score a ton of points. I promise I won't be let down if the Grizzlies lose. The Pacers are pretty solid, but that atmosphere is going to be outstanding at the FedEx Forum. I'm guessing it might go the Grizzlies' way. Anyways, that is the full episode for today. What an enjoyable game. I hope you watched it somewhere fun. I watched it at Noble's Beer Hall in Nashville for a Grizzlies watch party. We had a ton of people there. Not all of them stuck around. I mean, hey, it's a Tuesday night in December, but the many who remained at the very end, we had a great time, a big celebration as the Grizzlies completed the massive comeback. We got our storybook ending, and now the uphill climb begins. Can we be the team no one wants to face that scratches their way into the play-in. Fingers crossed. At the very least, it's going to be fun to watch the Grizzlies play basketball once again. Anyways, if you want to support this show, do that at patreon.com. Would really love it if all you guys signed up and joined over there. You can be a part of the Slack channel where we talk about the Grizzlies. There's also a general Fast Break Breakfast Slack and a movie Slack. We talk about everything over there. So if you want to support the show and join an interesting and fun online community of smart NBA fans, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast is where you do that. You also get some bonus content, including some bonus episodes over there. If you want to try out Underdog Fantasy, remember that promo code FBBF. All right. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.